MecKidz, it's your best friend Keely. This month we are talking about confidence, which is learning to see yourself the way God sees you. We have learned that you can have confidence because God loves you so much that He died for you so you can go to heaven. We also learned that you can have confidence because God has a plan for your life, and God's plan is the best plan. And today we are going to learn that you can have confidence because, well, I don't want to spoil the surprise. But first, Pastor Jonathan has a challenge for you.
Hey guys, Pastor Jonathan here. This month I am challenging all of you to send in videos of things you are confident doing, and I'm gonna try and do them. Last week I did this. And this.
This hurts so much. Why?
And this. Yeah, that one still hurts my back a little bit. I think I've fully recovered, so I'm ready for the next set of videos.
Actually, Jonathan, in the spirit of Father's Day, we thought we'd give you a break this weekend.
Thank you.
Just kidding. We actually had your kids submit this week's challenge.
What? Oh, okay, I can do that. Ha 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 ha. And here's the last one.
Try this, Daddy.
Why? Okay. Let's do this thing. Okay, all right. This is so small. Like, okay, there we go. I'm in. I have an audience. Time to do it. Oh, come on. Come on. I'm gonna break this thing. Okay, so don't forget to send in videos of you doing things that you're confident doing, and I promise that I will attempt to try them. Don't forget to send the videos to meckkids@mecklenburg.org, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, before we get into our Bible story for today, let's worship God with singing and dancing. And if singing and dancing isn't your thing, that's okay too. You can still worship God by focusing your mind on Him and letting the words of the song lead you to praise and honor Him. Let's go.
Me up, now I'm set apart. From the ash I am born again, forever safe in the Savior's hands. You are more than my words can say. I'll follow you, Lord, for all my days. I'll fix my eyes following your ways, forever free in unending grace. 'Cause you are my freedom. You higher, lift you higher. You love, never ending. You are light in us, nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Darkest night, let your love be the shining light, breaking chains that were holding me. You sent your son down and set me free. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, You love, never ending. You are light in us, nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your Lord has set us free. you higher. Your love, your love, your love, never ending. Whoa, oh, oh. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love, your love, your love, never ending. Whoa, oh, oh. You are light in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. You are light in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Whoa.
Hey everyone, I'm Graham, and I'm here to give you a little bit of confidence. Confidence is learning to see yourself the way God sees you. When you're confident, you don't just sit around waiting for something to happen. No, when there's a game to be played, you get off the bench and play. When there's a challenge to be met, you face it head on. When there's music to be played, you get in the mix, grab an instrument, and make some noise. See what I mean? Confidence. Believe it or not, some people think the triangle isn't that important of an instrument. The band could get along just fine without it. But we know better, don't we? I mean, how else would you know when someone on TV had a good idea? Or how would you know when someone had the right answer on a game show? The answer is the Yangtze River. And of course, who can forget the dinner bell? Come and get it! Sometimes something that doesn't seem important can make a big difference. And in today's story, we'll see how God used someone who didn't think he was important. And that someone's name was Gideon? Right, Gideon. See you in a bit.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Judges, chapters 6 through 8.
As many times before the Israelites turned away from God, He allowed the Midianites to take over their land. God's people hid out in caves. When they tried to grow plants or tend to livestock, the Midianites would show up and destroy their crops and animals. At last, the Israelites cried out to God for help. He heard them and sent the angel of the Lord to a man named Gideon, who was threshing grain in a winepress.
Mighty warrior, the Lord is with you.
All Gideon could do for a moment was stop and stare.
Pardon me, sir. You said the Lord is with us? Then why has all this happened? The Lord has deserted us.
You are strong. Go and save Israel from the power of Midian. I am sending you.
Pardon me, sir, but how can I possibly save Israel? My family is the weakest in the tribe, and I'm the least important member.
I will be with you.
Even with a direct message from the Lord, Gideon was still nervous about the whole thing.
Give me a special sign. Then I'll know it's really you talking to me.
So God gave Gideon a sign, sending fire to burn up meat and bread. God's spirit was with Gideon, and when the Midianites and the Amalekites gathered to attack, Gideon sounded a trumpet for the Israelites to follow him. But even as the army gathered, Gideon once again pleaded to God for another sign. God responded by letting dew fall on a fleece, and then on the next day, only on the ground surrounding it.
Okay, I've got it. Thank you.
At last, Gideon was convinced God wanted to use him. He camped with 32,000 men at the spring of Harod and prepared for battle. Here, God spoke again.
I want to hand Midian over to you, but you have too many men.
Too many?
Israel might brag, my own strength has saved me. Announce to the army, those who tremble with fear, can turn back.
Gideon did just as the Lord instructed.
There, Lord. 22,000 men have gone home. Only 10,000 left to fight.
There are still too many men.
Have you seen the Midianite army?
Take the men down to the water. There I will reduce the number of them for you.
Even though it must have worried Gideon to lose more of his army, he did just as the Lord said.
Field trip to the lake, everyone!
At the water's edge, the Lord said,
Some men will drink the way dogs do. They will lap up the water with their tongues. Separate them from those who get down on their knees to drink.
Gideon watched carefully. Most men got on their knees and drank directly from the water, but 300 men cupped the water in their hands and lifted them to their mouths to lap.
So, God, I send those 300 men home and keep the other 9,700, right?
With the help of the 300 men who lapped up the water, I will save you. Let all the other men go home.
Oh. Okay. Yes.
Gideon sent home every single person in the army except those 300 men.
Get some sleep. Tomorrow we will figure out what's next.
That night, the Lord spoke to Gideon once more.
Get up.
What? Oh, I'm awake.
Gideon stumbled out of his tent. Below, the campfires and torches of the enemy armies covered the entire valley.
So many. Like a swarm of locusts.
Go down to the camp. Listen to what they are saying. After that, you will not be afraid to attack.
Wondering if he might be dreaming, Gideon snuck down the mountain to hover in the shadows at the edge of the camp. He could hear voices from a nearby tent.
I had a dream. A round loaf of barley bread came rolling into the camp. It hit the tent with great force and knocked it flat.
Wow, but that can only be the sword of Gideon from Israel. God has given him the whole camp.
Gideon listened in shock.
Wow, God. Thank you.
At once, Gideon scrambled back up the hill to the Israelite camp.
Get up! Get up! The Lord has handed the Midianites over to you.
Quickly, Gideon separated the 300 men into 3 groups and handed each one a trumpet and a clay jar with a torch inside.
Watch me. Do what I do. I'll go to the edge of the enemy camp. Then we'll blow our trumpets from all around the camp and shout, "For the Lord and for Gideon!"
Gideon and his men headed quietly down the slope, fanning out in groups to surround the vast enemy camp.
Okay, get ready.
As soon as Gideon sounded his trumpet, he smashed his jar so the torch shone brightly. The other 300 men did the same.
For the Lord! A sword for the Lord! Gideon!
The Israelites held their ground, but their enemies panicked, confused by the trumpets and bright lights that pierced the dark night.
They're coming from everywhere!
The enemy armies were so confused, they began to fight each other, and then they fled in fear.
After the men!
Gideon and the Israelites chased their enemies all the way to the Jordan River and beyond until all the enemy armies were destroyed. The Israelites begged Gideon to rule over them.
I will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you.
Yep, Gideon was an underdog, filled with doubt, but he still chose to follow God, and God used him to save the Israelites.
MecKidz, it's time for the memory verse! Woo! Everybody, get up, get on your feet. Let's get pumped. Let's get excited. Here we go. Here is something that I am sure of, that I will see the Lord's goodness while I am still alive. Woo! Psalm 27:13. Let's go. Now, all of you, stand up and do it with me. Are you ready? Here is something that I am sure of, that I will see the Lord's goodness while I am still alive. Woo! Great job, everyone. You are memorizing that verse like a boss. Keep it up. Woo! Let's go. Bible verse. Bible verse. Bible verse.
According to Gideon, he was the least important family member and the weakest family of his tribe. He certainly didn't think God would use him to lead an army to victory over their enemies, but sometimes God uses people who don't seem important to make a big difference. You see this all through the Bible. Think of Jesus. He didn't pick the strongest, smartest, and most holy people to be his 12 closest friends. He picked regular guys, fishermen and tax collectors to be his disciples, and they went on to make a huge difference in the world. Hey, maybe that means God can use someone like me too, or someone like you. We don't have to know everything. We don't have to be important. God can do big things through us. Maybe he can use you to help a friend who's having a bad day. Maybe he can use you to solve a problem in your community. Or you might invent something that's never existed before. You might not think you're that important, and you might not think you're ready to make any kind of big difference. But the truth is, God thinks you're important, and he's totally ready to use you for something amazing. That's the one thing to remember today. God can use you no matter what. Knowing that should give you a little confidence. Why is my mouth watering? Oh, must be dinner time. I'll see you around.
Juneteenth was this week, and like many of you, I was thinking about a man named Abraham Lincoln. He was a poor, homeschooled farm boy who God used to change our entire country for the better. And history is full of unlikely heroes like that. For example, God used the prayers of a 6-year-old girl named Ruby Bridges to make public schools a kinder and safer place. God used a country kid from Charlotte, North Carolina named Billy Graham to tell millions of people about Jesus. And with the Olympics getting ready to start, did you know that God used a disabled woman named Wilma Rudolph, who wore a leg brace and was told she would never walk again, to become the first woman to win 3 gold medals in track and field in a single Olympics? All throughout history, God has used underdogs to make a huge difference, and that means God can use you to make a huge difference. So, I have a question for you. How do you think God could use you? Talk about that with your family. I don't know about you, but I want God to use me to make a huge difference, just like he used Gideon. This week, download the Kids Guide from the MEC website or the MEC app and do the activities on it. They help you explore ways you can make a difference for God, like Gideon. Also, don't forget about our virtual small groups, where you can hang out with other kids just like you through Zoom and talk more about confidence. Have your parents register you for it on the MEC website or the MEC app. And I'll see you next week, right here in MecKidz. Bye!